right, here we go, everyone. Another awesome episode of the All Around Adventure podcast. And I'm excited to welcome Nick Palacios to the show today, who is a first-generation bow hunter and the co-founder of DNA Archery. So, Nick, what's going on, man? Thanks so much for joining me on the show today.
I appreciate it, Josh. Thanks, man. I've been feeling pretty run down this weekend. So took a day off to just kind of rest and relax yesterday, just kind of recalibrate. But woke up this morning, got a good run in. So I'm feeling much better, feeling like I'm back in the groove now.
Yeah, man. You know, I got to remind myself to take it easy as well. I'm in the midst of 75 hard right now, which I know that you've done, and trying to do 2 45-minute workouts a day with one of those being outside is, you do kind of feel run down like after a while. Yeah. So I still got my workouts in, thank goodness. So I'm staying consistent, but I kind of, don't know if I did it as effectively I think I could have if I was fresh. But, I think it's just like you said, it's just sometimes you got to listen to your body, but you also have to stay consistent with it. Yeah,
exactly. It's a fine line, being able to listen to yourself and realize whether or not you're kind of just making excuses to not work out, or if you really have like a legitimate potential injury, or if you're just really feeling run down. And if you try to push yourself a little bit too hard, then you get yourself sick or whatnot. So, it's just being able to kind of discern from the two of those. But I'm proud of you, man. 75 hard is not, it's not easy. There's a reason why they call it 75 hard, but you get to a certain point and you hit a sticking point, and it's hard to keep going through it.
Yeah. Well, and then also I think, the 75 hard app that they have, it kind of does help with accountability quite a bit, because you have the option to, share it in like your Instagram stories and whatnot. And so I think once you actually tell other people that you're doing something like this, kind of becomes like, they won't necessarily say anything to you to try to hold you accountable, but you kind of feel like they are because they know about it now. So at least that's kind of been my helpful strategy, is like, I'll only like post like a story once I finish a week rather than like every single day. But I think accountability, there's something to be said there as well with staying on track with something like this.
Yeah, 100%. And you kind of hit the nail on the head there. When you put it out there and you tell people that you're doing something, not really to do it to gloat or be like, oh, look at me, look what I'm doing. It's really just an accountability thing on your part, so that way you don't have that stigma of like saying you're going to do something and then fall through on it and then not be somebody of your word, So it's kind of like a good thing for you to help build your character and help you stay a man of your word, saying I'm doing this, I'm going to stick to it, and then keep moving forward from there. So, but like I said, bro, I commend you for getting into it and staying on track, because it's not easy, man. It's very hard. Mentally, it's tough, and physically it's brutal on your body. So kudos to you.
All right. Appreciate that, brother. And we'll probably circle back to talk about this a little bit more as we get into our conversation. But as we kind of, start this episode off, though, I kind of want to go back to the beginning a little bit. I've been following you on Instagram for a good while now. And obviously, much of what you do is centered around archery and bow hunting, and you're a first generation bow hunter. So you kind of got into this a little bit later on in your life. So we may not have to go back that far in your timeline, but still going back a little bit, though, can you kind of take us through what was it initially that inspired you to take on archery as well as bow hunting in the first place?
Yeah, man. So it was right around my 29th birthday, and I had some family in town, and we had a great time celebrating my birthday. But afterwards, I was feeling super run down, and I was beat up. I actually ended up getting COVID afterwards. So I was, So I was at a point where it was just like, I want to really take a step back, focus on my health. I've been in the fitness industry for a long time, off and on, and kind of fell off from being on any type of like rigid routine. And anybody who's worked out long enough, you kind of start off getting into a certain type of training. And after so long, you can switch it up enough, but it's hard to really stay on top of it once you get to a certain point. It's kind of like, well, what am I training for, kind of thing. And archery was one of those activities that I'd always wanted to get into, but being from Northern California originally, hunting's not very prevalent. I didn't grow up with anybody that really hunted before. I had a grandfather that passed away when I was a baby, and he hunted a little bit, but rifle hunting, small game stuff. So nobody in my family ever really hunted, and it wasn't anything that was talked about. If it was kind of like that stigma against against hunting, where it wasn't ever really positive. So going back to probably like 2016, I started getting a little bit into bow hunting, just like listening to podcasts and looking up a little bit of backstories on it. And there was always this calling to wanting to go through a hunt. It's one of those things where, like, in this day and age, as men, you don't really have like this specific point in your life where you go from a boy to becoming a man, right? So you kind of see these like you hear about all this adventure through going through a bow hunt, and it just seems really alluring, right? Just that call to the wild, and just wanting to be able to test yourself. At the time I was still living in California. So again, it was just kind of like on another planet for me. I just had no clue how to get into it. And once I had moved to Texas a couple years ago, it became something that was more on the table. So kind of circling back to my 29th birthday, once I had taken that time off, I was like, I'm going to just abstain from drinking. I'm just going to really focus on just getting back in my groove. And once I did, I was like, you know what, I want to get into archery. I found a club that was close to Austin, and I was like, you know what, let me try to figure this out. Right. So I started just consuming a ton of content. John Dudley, Cameron Haynes, the big two, and then a lot of Meat Eater, Remy Warren, Steven Ranella. I love those guys. They're awesome. Yeah. Dan Staten from Elk Shape, I ended up finding through, just Instagram and kind of going through various figures within the industry. And all these guys put out great content. They all have something specific that they bring to the industry. Me being very fitness oriented, I really gravitated toward Dan a lot and seeing all the hard work and stuff that he puts in on his end. And then John is super technical as far as like archery basics, being able to learn how to shoot, going through shot processes, stuff like that. So I really gravitated towards that content, and I was going over that stuff for weeks. And while I was doing that, simultaneously was looking online, trying to find a used bow, because I didn't know if I was really going to 100% be into it. So I didn't want to fully commit into buying, you buy a brand new bow from the store. I mean, you're going to spend a decent amount of money. So,
right.
So I found a guy in Austin. He was selling a 2018 Bear, and he gave me, I think I bought it for like $400. So I had the bow. It had everything on it that I needed. He had a set of arrows, which I ended up having to buy new ones because he was a little shorter. So I had to adjust all that. But I bought it probably maybe 3 weeks or so after I started doing all my research. And once I did that, I took it to Cabela's the next day, got it set up there, which anybody listening, I say this all the time, but like, if you're going to get into archery, go to a pro shop and go to something that's dedicated to archery, because those guys really care about what they're doing and they know it specifically. Right. Going to a big box retailer, it's not going to be the best. So, but we got it set up enough to where I could go shooting, and they have like a 10-yard indoor range there. And I shot that first arrow, man, and I hit right on the bullseye, and I was set. From there, it was just like, man, I can't believe I'd never tried this before. It's just so fun. So I shot a couple more ends at the Cabela's there. And from then on, man, I was just trying to find anywhere that I could go shoot. I really went down the rabbit hole, continued to just keep learning as much as I could. So if I wasn't out shooting, I was reading books on archery or bow hunting. I was consuming podcasts, audio books, because I'm a very competitive person by nature. So I always feel like I'm very behind the eight ball in this regard. So I was just trying to do everything I could to kind of catch myself up and learn all the basics. And I spent maybe 3 months just training nonstop. I would go to the club here in Austin 3-4 times a week, and I'd spend a few hours there every time I'd go, just shooting a ton of arrows, just really trying to figure out like what my shot process is and just getting comfortable getting behind a bow. And from there, I was like, well, I want to try to do something competitive, right? So I was maybe thinking about doing like an indoor shoot. I found ASA, so I was kind of looking into that. But then I ended up coming across Total Archery Challenge, and it happened to be coming up in maybe it's about 2-3 weeks or so from when I initially found it, and it was in San Antonio. So I live in Austin. That's not that far of a drive. And man, it was one of the best things that I made the decision to do. If anybody's never been to a Total Archery Challenge, I would heavily suggest you do, whether you've been shooting forever or you just picked a bow up last week, because it's going to be a whole weekend nonstop shooting. You get tons of different shooting scenarios. You meet great people. Everybody in the industry is just awesome, man. Everybody's super inviting, wanting you to be better, do better. So I had a great time. I spent 2 days there, and my two business partners that I started DNA Archery with, Alex and Derek, I actually met them my first day at TAC.
Oh, nice.
So I went I shot the Leopold course first and had an early morning knock time at 7 a.m. And they were nice enough to let me shoot with them, man. And we ended up shooting all day and becoming good friends. And from then on, man, we just kind of went down the rabbit hole from there. So that's kind of how I had gotten started in archery. But again, it was just really a call to it, something that I really had wanted to do. And as soon as I picked it up, it just made sense, man. It was just like a puzzle piece that just fit perfectly in place for me.
Yeah, kind of expanding on this point that you brought up where you felt like you heard this call to the wild, so to speak. And especially when, you're following men like, Cameron Haynes, John Dudley, and, they're showing all this great content of them just way out in the backwoods, far, far away from civilization out there. Actually, what I do for a living. I'm an archaeologist by day. And actually, I was kind of thinking about this myself, and this was one of my draws to getting into hunting as well, is that, we've just been hunting for millennia. And actually, you're based in Austin, just a little bit north of you a few years ago. They actually found an archaeological site that actually contains some of the oldest spear points that have ever been found in North America. Like these spear points date back about 15,000 years. And of course, it's a spear point. No one's going to just, if someone's going to spend hours, clacking away at these stones to make these spear points, they intend to plunge it into a living creature, whether it's, on the battlefield somewhere or to another animal to go and feed their tribe. So, so people have just been drawn to like hunting, like it goes back millennia. And so, so would you say that maybe that also had a little bit more to do with it, where you get out in the wild, you're hunting, you're focusing on your game, that it creates that primal connection where it's like, this is where I'm kind of meant to be. Can you maybe break that down for us when you're out and about?
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, when you think about it, like every single person is a descendant from a tribe of people that was able to hunt, right? So everybody has their own specific place within their tribe, right? But none of us would be here if it wasn't for people being able to go out into the wild and either forage their food or hunt it. And that's ingrained in us over, like you said, millennia. It's nothing new to us, but collectively as a civilization now, people, I think, tend to have amnesia when it comes to where we came from. There's a lot of people that say there's no need to go hunt anymore. You can go to a market and go get it. And while that's true, there's really no sense of pride in that. There's not really a big sense of like knowing where that comes from. And if you want to be healthy and you want to try to be a better version of yourself, hunting's a great way to be able to do that, because you get to go out there, you get to fail a lot. There's plenty of, you're going to go hunting more often than not and come back empty-handed. So being able to learn from those mistakes and build on those and then try different tactics moving forward is something that's ingrained in us, whether or not people choose to admit it or not. But absolutely, I think that's something that was a big reason why it called to me. I like being out in the outdoors. I grew up a lot being outdoors, and I love camping. I love hiking and just doing anything I can just to be outside. So this was kind of just a natural transition for me as I started to grow into my own. But yeah, man, it's something that's in every single person, whether or not you want to tap into it or not. I think that's a big reason why I'm drawn to the hunting community and the people in it, because it's such a humbling experience. You do it enough, it kind of becomes your character. So people are very humble for the most part, and are very inviting as well too, man. So it's a beautiful community of people for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as you were kind of just sort of saying that, is that we really do have it, very conveniently and way too easy in this day and age, where it's like now you just tap a few buttons on your phone and someone can bring a ready-made meal for your door. You don't have to actually go out and put in very much work to, prepare yourself a meal these days. But, I actually did my first hog hunt a few months ago down in near Dallas, with High Caliber Hunts and Colin Cottrell, of course you're connected with as well. And once I finally got my meat back from the processor, and I had a little bit of an early 4th of July celebration with my immediate family, and I made them boar tacos, using the meat that I hunt for myself. And I tell you, Nick, I had never been more excited to prepare a meal for someone like ever in my life, because I felt really good. Well, for one, knowing that I knew where that animal came from. It was out in a field, just living its life until I was actually able to successfully place the shot, to and make a successful hunt. I didn't buy it from the grocery store where it was questionably sourced. I don't know where it came from. I don't know who placed it in the aisle. I mean, at best, maybe I might have known the cashier who rung me out at the store. So I think it just really has something to be said there, where it's just, I don't know if empowering is the right word, but I think that it is probably pretty fitting, because it's just like, I know that I could take care of myself, and I know I can be a good provider for my family. So, and I'm sure you share similar sentiments as that as well.
Yeah, 1,000%, man. When I shot my first deer last year, the feeling of being able to go through all of that practice last year, shooting thousands of arrows, all the research that I did, all the time that I took out and put into being able to get comfortable enough to know that, like, when I get into that situation, I'm in the red zone, when I'm able to draw back on that animal, I have zero conflict, and I know that I put in the work to be able to do that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have tried to go out and take that shot, because it's something that's very, it's not something that should be taken lightly, being able to go and be in a position to do that, right, where you're going to take something else's life. But when I was able to do that and successfully do it, take it back, quarter it, clean it, and then be able to cook that backstrap for the first time, it was an amazing feeling, man. I was with two of my very good friends, with Alex and Derek, and we were out in West Texas, out towards Junction area. And man, it was a beautiful feeling, man. Got to be able to barbecue some backstrap and then take that home and bring it back to my fiance. And then I cooked her that dinner that night. And it was just an amazing feeling, man. And it's something that, aside from just the hunt itself, you're going to be able to create so many amazing memories, and it's an amazing experience. So it's a lot more than just the hunt. It's a lot more than just the kill, but that feeling of being able to take that meat back and share it with people you care about is a whole other level of that. And again, that's just another part of the allure that I love about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as you've mentioned, is that you can go out on a hunt and sometimes things just don't go your way. You don't bring back anything, but you just kind of learn and adjust to those mistakes and try to do better the next time you go out. Because, that really is the tough thing about doing something like the hunt, because the animal has a say in this too. And typically when you're trying to take down big, large, powerful animals, the thing about big, large, and powerful animals is that they don't want to die. And so, of course, they're not going to make it easy for you by any means. So kind of going along with that is just, so far, what has been your toughest game? Can you recall like a moment where you were out hunting where you maybe successfully got a hunt, but you're like, dang, that was a tough one. Holy crap. So anything come to mind?
Yeah. So I just recently had shot my first hog out here in Texas, and I've spent all summer trying to hunt a hog and get it out of the field. So I probably went on almost a dozen different hog hunts this year with no success. So I would say that the one that I just recently was able to harvest was aside from my first year, which was amazing, and a great experience. The hog was a little bit different because it's something that's been a lot more elusive to me this year. I went on a lot of public land, hadn't been having any luck. And luckily I was able to go out and I found some land, actually from a client of mine. I had done a job for him a couple of months back, and he has some property out towards like the San Marcos area here in Central Texas. And I was able to go out and I spotted a group of hogs that was about 150 yards away. And I stalked in, they ran away from me, cut left to another pasture. So I had to double back another 150 yards, go around the field. And then I stalked back into them, and I got within, I think I took my shot at like 36 yards, and was able to harvest a large sow. And I was super excited about that one, man. That was a really important and pivotal moment for me, because I was out there 100% by myself. And it was just a beautiful experience, man. It was coming down towards the last little bit of light, and pulled off a great shot. And it cut through from where the feeder was at that I stalked up to him. She cut right and went through this deep thicket of cedar and cactus. So the other pigs had cut left, and I'm hearing them snarling. And I mean, you could just hear them, like if you've been around hogs, when they're just like agitated and really worked up. And that's an animal that's not like a deer, where, a deer's not necessarily ever going to attack you. Hogs are a lot different, right? Especially when you're walking up to, almost 24 pigs by yourself with a bow. It's a lot more nerve wracking. So the fact that I was able to stay cool, stay calm while my heart's beating through my throat, that for me was a really big feeling. And I was super excited to be able to pull that off and track it, bring it back and quarter it myself and bring that meat home. So it was an amazing feeling.
It sounds like quite the adrenaline rush. Because I've hunted hogs with an AR with a thermal night scope from far away, but it has to be an entirely different animal when you're, yeah, like you said, trying to get that close to place a shot with a bow like that. Goodness, man.
Yeah.
Right
it's,
on.
It's fun, man. It's fun. And it goes again, it kind of just speaks to something very primal and innate within our DNA. You know, it's a hell of a feeling to be able to pull that off, man. So it's like, if anybody, like something like going through 75 hard, or anybody who goes through a hunt, it's like you can immediately have a level of basic mutual respect for each other, because you know the work and you know how hard it is to go through something like that. So it's something that's very unique in the way that it makes you feel, in a sense of pride.
Yeah, definitely. And also, as we were kind of talked about earlier, is that, you know, hunting is also just a great way to connect with other amazing, like-minded people. And like I said, you know, you and I were kind of sort of brought together because we both have participated on high caliber hunts. You know, you were in a hunt like before mine. So I guess, what's that journey just been like for you so far? I mean, you know, especially I think it becomes more so now in this day with social media, is that, you know, you put out your content and then people see your content, they want to connect with you, they want to talk with you. So what's that been like so far, as you know, building those connections as well as camaraderie through hunting so far?
I mean, it's amazing, man. You know, everybody, I know everybody wants to be a part of some type of community, right? And if you can be a part of a community that it brings you a hobby where you're able to explore your creativity, right? I don't care what anybody does, whether you sell stocks or you shoot a bow. It all takes a level of creativity to it, right? You know, because you're kind of exploring things through your own experiences, and you have to find certain ways to be able to be successful in that endeavor, right? So even from just putting out content and building up my Instagram profile, and meeting people through there, or meeting people through hunts, it's been amazing, man. You know, I've been able to be a part of a community of people that you know, care about what I'm doing, which is very humbling. And it's also a very weird feeling because it's very new to me, but it's humbling, man. And it's great to be a part of a community, because you can have that and be a part of that, and, you know, just make friends, go out on these hunts and meet some really cool people from all different walks of life. So, you know, that's something that everybody wants, is to be able to be a part of a community. And I'm very fortunate to have found one that I've been able to get so much from. And also I'm actively working to ensure that I give a lot back.
Now, kind of venturing into like hunting and archery community, especially when you kind of sort of picked up archery a little bit later on in your life, did you ever feel like any nerves when it came to connecting with some of these like veteran bow hunters and archers about like whether or not how they would view you, whether they'd be welcoming to you, the community? Do you have any sort of anxiety like that before you kind of put yourself out there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, anytime you put yourself in a position where, you know, you're putting yourself in the public eye, it's always a little bit awkward. You know, you definitely don't want people to, like, you know, talk shit or talk negatively to you. But, you know, if you're going to be doing anything in the public eye, eventually that's going to happen. You just kind of have to get to a point where you're just like, fuck it, I don't really care what anybody says about me. Because I know for me personally, anything that I put out there, I always ensure that I do it as authentically and organically as possible. And seeing the traction that we're able to build on that front again, it's super humbling, and it kind of speaks to, you know, putting out organic and authentic content and value-based content, man. So it's an amazing feeling, but you know, there's always going to be somebody that's going to want to be negative, and that's just on them. It's not on you. You just have to kind of roll with the punches at that point, you know? So at this point, I could care less what anybody says about me. At the end of the day, I know that what I'm doing, is rooted into just being positive and making sure that I share my experiences. But it is awkward to kind of reach out to these figureheads within the industry, because you don't know what they're going to say, right? I know where my place is within this community. I'm never going to sit here and act like I'm a professional, because I'm not. I'm never going to sit here and act like I'm going to give somebody any type of advice or feedback, and think that like I'm some type of major figurehead, because I'm not. You know, at the end of the day, like I said, I'm very new to this. I'm a green pea at the end of the day. So I just share my experience and share what works and what doesn't work. And I just hope that it helps people, and I can help other people avoid pitfalls, or get into this and find a sense of fulfillment that I found in it. So that's my North Star, and that's what always drives me.
Well, I think what I've kind of observed myself, this may not be specifically just in the realm of like archery, but in like other areas that I've like ventured out into, whether it's like jujitsu or fitness or whatever. The only criticism I ever really received was coming from people who weren't doing what I was doing. Like, I mean, if I'm showing if I'm showing footage of me like working in the gym, if I do get any criticism, it's looks like from someone who looks like they probably haven't been to the gym in years or might not even know a guy named Jim.
Of course.
But it's just like, but those who I know are getting after it in life, either people I know personally or just people that you can kind of see that it's obvious that that's kind of the life that they're living. They're the ones that would say things like, right on, man, keep on crushing it, keep on going. And so it seems like the praise is always coming from those who are ahead of us. And the criticism is coming from from people who are behind us and, whatever it is that we're referring to. And I'm going to assume that that's been the case for you with archery as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it has. And honestly, man, the negativity has been relatively small. 9 times out of 10, it's always somebody being positive and somebody always saying, either, thank you or, praising and things like that, which is great, and every now and again, you're going to get the negative person. And really all it is you're just kind of reflecting something that they know that they should be doing in the back of their mind, whether it's with fitness or they just not feeling motivated or not being consistent in whatever it is that they're doing or chasing in their lives. So, it has nothing to do with me and everything to do with them. You just got to learn how to be able to have thick skin and just brush it off.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, kind of speaking of consistency, when it comes to doing archery and bow hunting, I mean, I'm kind of new to archery myself, and there's a few fundamentals that are out there, but kind of like the two that I was sort of telling you about that I wanted to sort of focus in on. Well, one of them is, of course, the idea of focus, because you really do need to have good focus. Like, as you've mentioned, you're out there, you're like 35 yards away from this dangerous hog that you want to put an arrow through and your blood's going. You got to maintain that focus. And you also got to follow through to place a good, clean shot. So just having those fundamentals that you've been utilizing in archery, how have you been able to sort of translate those fundamentals to other areas of your life? And I think I want to start with, since we were kind of just talking about fitness, I want to start there. So with fitness, as well as, following through with 75 hard, how have you been able to translate those fundamentals to those areas?
That's a great question, man. So I always like to tell people, for me personally, a lot of good things that have come out of my life has been through my passion for fitness, right? And I think I think that the two are mutually exclusive when it comes to hunting, bow hunting, and fitness, because when you're working out, you're stressing your body out. You can be getting frustrated. It's an uncomfortable situation to be putting yourself in, especially if you're doing more of like a HIIT style, high aerobic type of training. So learning how to breathe and get your heart rate down while you're jacking it up, and you're going through these hard workouts that are stressing you out, immediately translates to hunting. Because when you're in that situation, and you're in the red zone and you're stalking an animal and your heart's going through the roof, you're going to be able to take that training of utilizing good breath work. And that's something for me that I always try to practice on a daily basis is practicing breath work. And that's something that I think kind of gets overlooked a lot. Whether it's, people think certain type of breath work might be like woo-woo, or they just don't see the benefit in it. It's a practice that I've utilized a lot and well before hunting, but it's a tool that I use when I do get into those situations where I'm about to draw back on an animal, to keep myself focused and keep those blinders on so I can be able to focus and execute a good shot. So breath work is something that's super important for me. And again, being able to stay on top of a consistent training schedule, for me now, being as deep in the rabbit hole as I am with hunting, that's my reason for training hard now. So I want to be able to be in the best physical shape that I can be in, because I know if I'm in a position where I'm about to draw back on an animal, I know physically I'm in a good place. So if I'm physically in a good place, that means I'm mentally in a good place, because I've stayed on a good routine and I've stayed consistent. So I feel like I've earned it. So for me, those two are mutually exclusive. Being able to stay consistent and build that momentum is extremely important, no matter what you're doing in life. It could be anything, but for me, those two go hand in hand.
Yeah, because anytime I ever suggest to anyone, whenever they kind of have this ambition to start working on themselves, I always talk about start with fitness before anything else. Because I have this saying that your body is the vessel with which you will do all things. And if you have that running optimally, then all areas of your life are just naturally going to improve. And then, of course, as we kind of talked about at the beginning of this conversation, you're an archer, you're a bow hunter, you're a businessman, you also have, just other aspects of your life that you're trying to take care of, your relationships and what have you. So can you kind of just sort of take us through just getting on this path of fitness and being, again, going along to just focus and follow through, just how has that translated and just to just those more general areas of your life as well?
Yeah. So, getting into archery and bow hunting has been extremely pivotal for me. And I started 75 hard at the beginning of the year, which you said you're also going through as well. And that was something that helped take my love for archery and really drive that focus and that energy in a really positive way. When you get to a point where you have to stay on top of your fitness regimen every single day, you're not drinking. So not drinking is for anybody. I'm never going to knock somebody for drinking, right? Like I still like to enjoy my occasional drink now that I'm not on 75 hard, but I did not have a healthy relationship with alcohol. So I was, would be drinking on, like a weekly basis, once a week, maybe twice a week or whatever. But you go to it through an extended period of time and not drinking, your mental bandwidth just blows up. And when I have more mental bandwidth, I'm able to focus on multiple things and be much more effective. Instead of, you go out on a weekend, you get hungover, you sleep all day, you don't work out, you make all these excuses. So you're doing that you're not doing that for such an extended period of time. So you're able to channel all that energy and build that momentum in whatever it is that you want to do. And for me, it was fitness and it was archery. And I've been able to really dial into something that I specifically really enjoy doing. And it's never worked for me. It's never like, oh shit, I got to go and shoot my bow or I've got to go get to the gym. Granted, I'll still kind of barter with myself on certain days of not wanting to go because, you just have that little kid throwing a tantrum in the back of your head, saying like, I don't want to go to the gym, so I'm not going to go. But you just get up and go, you knock it out and you always feel better afterwards. Whether it's a walk, a run, a lift in the gym, you're always going to feel better. But man, being consistent and building that momentum is imperative. And that's something that I wish everybody would be able to try is going through 75 hard because it completely changed my life. So for me, I'm always going to go back to like what you said is start with fitness, because if you feel good about yourself and you start to look better in the mirror, that just translates to a lot of mental health benefits. You're breathing more, you're getting in more oxygen going through these workouts. You're seeing consistent effort being able to translate into a physical manifestation of physically looking better. And then you mentally feel better, and that just bleeds out into everything else in your life. So if you can stay on top of that type of consistent regimen, your life is just going to be better, man. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when.
Yeah. And then also, I guess before we keep going with talking about 75 hard, I guess we should probably explain what it actually entails. We're talking about. So 75 hard, everyone, is it was started by Andy Frisilla, who is the CEO of First Form, very large supplement company. And it's 75 days of a series of tasks that you have to do each day. And it's 2 45-minute workouts. One of those having to be done outside. You have to take a progress photo each day, and then you got to follow a diet. You got to read 10 pages of a book, and no alcohol or cheat meals. And was that it? I think was that it?
I think you got it all. Yeah, I think you got it all.
Okay, yeah. So it's things that you should be doing and things that you should not be doing. So, but now one thing that I kind of going through 75 hard is that I've kind of personally observed is that it gives me a good sense of control, especially when it's like I'm able to say no to when I see like, junk food, or if like one of my coworkers brings in a box of donuts and I can say no to it, or, and I would say this is even kind of hard, Nick. I went to my 4th of July family celebration. We have more desserts that on the table than we do actual real food. So it's just all those desserts right there. But even still, I just said no. So I just feel like in a world that's completely chaotic like it is right now, I mean, there's no surprise there that it is. We see it. It's clear as day. That gives me doing something like 75 hard and being able to do those things. It gives me that sense of control to where I feel like I could be more, able to thrive in a chaotic world. Has that been the case for you as well? Just the sense of control in your life that you're in charge now, kind of, sort of. I mean, that may be a loaded question, but what's that been like for you?
I will say yes, it does. What it does is it allows you to puts you in the driver's seat. Mm-hmm. It allows you to it puts you in a position to make smart choices on a regular basis. And Dan talks a lot about this, about delayed gratification, right? So we live in a time right now where everything is like, I want it now, I want it fast, and I want it immediately.
Right.
So not many people are willing to put in work and slowly put a brick down every single day to where you eventually have a house built, right? So, and that's very hard for a lot of people to conceptualize and be patient to wait for. And 75 hard allows you to do that. Every day you're staying on task and you're able to put that brick down. And at the end of it, once you've done it and you've done it consistently and you are able to actually follow each step and you're not lying to yourself, you've got something amazing that's built after that. And it gives you all these tools, like you said, to have more self-control, to not just say, oh, fuck it. You know what? I worked hard, so I'm going to go ahead and just binge on this food or binge on this junk food or whatever it is. So that was something that was super important for me, because I can tend to be impulsive, and I tend to struggle with consistency. So being able to go through that and then see, wow, I actually can stay consistent for an extended period of time. And then you look back and you see everything that you've been able to build behind you. It's very empowering. So I think that 75 hard is something that puts you in the driver's seat and allows you to say, I can be consistent and I can build all these things behind me, and I can continually build off of that, take those tools, and then move forward.
Yeah. And then also just kind of diving into fitness, see, the interesting thing about our conversation so far is we've only been talking about how fitness makes us feel and what we're able to accomplish with being physically fit, where it seems like nowadays it's all about aesthetics in this day and age, especially with like social media, where people want to work out because they're hoping they could just post their shirtless pics or whatever else and everything like that. And, I'm not saying I'm totally against that, because I got to say, I'm looking pretty freaking good myself, being going through 75 hard. So it's there, but it's just, so I say there's a time and a place for that, but I just feel like if that's your overarching goal is just your appearance, then I kind of feel like you're not really setting yourself up for anything like sustainable. I think that's what's going to kind of veer people towards like fad diets, which may work for a time, but won't sustain them for a lifestyle. It's just, I think, what you and I are talking about here is that when it comes to being physically fit and how you're translating that into archery and any other area of your life, and also with how you connect with others, it's a lifestyle we're seeking here, not just a short-term, thing to accomplish.
Yeah. And I've seen a lot of people start 75 hard and not a lot of people finish it. And you kind of hit the nail on the head there. If you're going into it for the wrong reasons, it's going to be extremely hard once you get past week 2 to try to stay on top of it, let alone getting past day 50, 60, 70 plus. If you're going into it and you're having a handful of specific goals that you want for yourself, aside from wanting to look good physically, like, don't get me wrong, everybody wants to look good physically, right? Sure, there's a lot of benefits to it. It makes you feel much better about yourself. And if you feel better about yourself, you're going to act better and you're going to act a little bit smarter and make smarter decisions on a daily basis. But that's not the only thing. And I've talked to so many people that have finished 75 hard, and the real gift from that is the mental strength that you get from it, being able to just stay consistent. And that's really the fucking secret, man, is consistency. And whatever you do in your life, if you can be consistent for an extended period of time, you will see success in whatever it is that you're chasing. And that's what you get, is you get that mental strength. And there's so much more that you get from it, physiologically and psychologically. But man, the mental aspects of it have been, bar none, the best gift that I've received from going through that training program.
Excellent, man. Right on. All right. So what's next? Are you continuing on with like some of the other aspects of that program? Like, I guess I think after 75 hard, is it phase 1 or something like that? Are you continuing on?
I am. Yeah. So I actually just finished phase 1 almost a month ago. So I have a trip coming up here. I'm going to be going to Costa Rica for a very good friend's bachelor party. So we'll be out there for a couple of days. Yeah, it'll be a fun time for sure. So I'll indulge and have fun. It's a much deserved vacation. Haven't been on vacation for a long time. So it'll be good to be out there for a little bit. My fiance is coming as well too. So it'll be good for her and I to just go and spend some time together and just kind of disconnect and enjoy being out there and not having to work and be on a routine. Yeah. So once I do get back from that though, I'm going to end up starting phase 2. So by the time I get back, it'll be 30 days. So I'll be able to get back on track with that. But even not being on it for the last month, I've still kept up on my workouts. I traditionally eat healthy on a regular basis. I'll go out and I'll eat out every couple, maybe twice a week or something like that. Yeah. But I thrive being on a routine. So being on 75 hard was, as challenging as it just kind of put me in my element, and it just gave me some really good like uprights to stay in between the whole time, so it was good to have the structure of it. But that's personally where I thrive. Whereas a lot of other people might not, whether, depending on how impulsive or, how much you struggle with discipline. But for me, I always mentally and physically feel the best when I'm on a specific routine of eating well, going to the gym on a regular basis, and going through whatever, my other couple of things that I have on my routine. But yeah, man, so we'll be enjoying the vacation while I'm out. And then once I get back, we'll get back on the horse here.
Right on. And what exactly does phase 1 entail? I'm pretty sure it carries over everything from 75 hard and then some. Yeah.
It does. Yeah. So you get, it adds 3 other things on there. So you have a 8 critical task list. So every day you have 8 tasks that you have to accomplish. And it doesn't really have to have any extra thing to do with fitness or really anything like that. For me, it was always, making sure I check various work emails, and then you can add whatever else. So like I would have like 5 daily tasks that I would do every single day. And then I would have 3 rotating ones. And then I would write them down on my iPhone's notes. And once I would finish it, I would check it off. So I did that for a straight month. And that way I can go back and I can, look back on the whole thing again, because it's good to physically see something tangible. So aside from all the other things on the list, you've got this 8 critical task list. So that's one thing that it adds on there. The other thing is a 5-minute cold shower every single day. And I'm missing the third one for some reason. I can't remember the third, unfortunately, right off the top of my head, but you had one more thing. So you basically have 8 or 9 different tasks to add on top of there.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of one thing I really like about the program. Like, it's not easy, but it's simple. Like, I mean, when he says 2 45-minute workouts, it doesn't tell you what kind of workout you have to do, or when you follow a diet, it doesn't tell you what diet you have to follow either. You kind of have that flexibility to go about it however, you want to see fit. It's just simply, it's a binary thing. Did you do it or did you not? And also, have that integrity to say, okay, no, I didn't do it. So, and because that's the thing. It's just like, it's just, did you do it or did you not? It's simple in that regard. Yeah. So,
and for me, phase 1 was actually harder than doing 75 hard. I failed phase 1. And then I took some time off, and then I got back into it and I was able to go through it, but it was hard, man. Cause you do 75 hard and you feel like I've already done it. I've already accomplished it. Why am I doing this again? Kind of thing. And I had the wrong mindset going into it. Like we were talking about earlier, if you're going into it with the wrong mindset, it's going to be an uphill battle every single day for you to knock it out. So once I failed, I had a good buddy of mine that has finished the Live Hard program. So I would kind of rely on him if I was having some issues. I would touch base with him, and it's cool because you can tap into that community throughout the Live Hard program. There's tons of people that have done it, man. So, and everybody's always forthcoming and wanting to help you out and succeed in it. So I was lucky I had somebody that I could fall back on and kind of bounce some ideas off. And I was telling him the struggles that I was going through, and he was like, man, it's a consistency game. Not everybody can be consistent for an extended period of time like this. So if you can get through the I've already done it kind of mentality and think about all the benefits that you got from 75 hard and the other tools and the benefits that you're going to get from going through the rest of the phases, that's what you need to focus on, because those are the gifts that you're going to get from it. And once we had that conversation, I was able to shift that mindset and was able to steamroll through those next 30 days.
All right. Awesome, brother. Yeah. All right. So, but like you said, you got some travels coming up. You're heading to Costa Rica here pretty soon, a little bit. So kind of just looking ahead, it's just kind of, and also with our discussion about hunting, Is there any place in the future that you would really, really, really would like to go and hunt at? Or is there a specific game that you would just call would be your dream hunt? What comes to mind?
Yeah. So as far as where I'm planning on going hunting, I have a buddy of mine, him and I are planning to do an over the counter elk hunt in Colorado. So we're putting the final touches on that hunt coming up here. So probably going to head out there mid-September. We're thinking around like the 10th of September to get out there. So we'll be out there for a week. Very excited about that. That's a dream hunt. Again, that's kind of, Western big game hunting is the pinnacle.
Right.
That's where you get to really test yourself and all the work that you put in, not just shooting wise, but physically, and a lot of mental prep is going to need to be going into that, because it's going to be extremely hard, whether we come out successful or not. I just want to get out there and I want to get the experience in and see how I do. I'm super excited about that. Aside from an elk hunt, we'll be doing some whitetail hunting and exotics out here in Texas. So again, got a buddy who has a spot out in Junction, so we'll get to go hunting out there, and hogs, whitetail exotics. But a black bear hunt is definitely going to be on the itinerary for me next year. Next spring, I really want to put a black bear hunt together. That's something that's calling to me, and I'm very much interested in doing. So putting something together here towards the end of the year and getting that all dialed in.
Right on, man. Yeah. All right. So that's what you got coming up. But like I said at the start of this conversation, you are the co-founder for DNA Archery. So, by all means, give us more of a synopsis on it and just kind of tell us what you're all about.
Yeah, man. So DNA Archery had come about. So myself, my two business partners and two of my best friends, Derek and Alex, we had started that really just, it was very organic in the way it kind of had started. DNA just stands for Derek, Nick, Alex. Kind of simple, but it really worked. Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. No.
Yeah. But I mean, it worked out, man. Because like we talked about at the beginning of our conversation, hunting is something that's ingrained in our DNA. Right. So we were kind of all just kind of shooting the shit, talking about it, and we were like, man, that name fits perfect, right?
It does, yeah.
But we really wanted to ensure that in starting this company, we wanted to make sure that we put together really value-based content that helped people that were in our position, a year and a half, 2 years ago when we first started. We always like to say that, we're the home of the first generation bow hunter, right? So we want to make sure that we're always putting out content, or we let people know that our door is always open should you have any questions. If you need any guidance or anything like that, we're not professionals by any stretch of the imagination, but we're all within the same realm of like starting within that early on journey of bow hunting. I said it earlier, like I'm never going to sit here and have any delusions of grandeur like I'm some type of Cam Haynes or John Dudley or Dan Staten, any of those veterans, right? Any of those guys that have, decades of experience. I'm green in where I'm at, but in starting DNA Archery, we just wanted to be able to have a community that we could build where people know where they can go to try to figure out how to get off on the starting blocks and help learn a set of skills that they could take with them throughout the beginning of their bow hunting journey. So that was super important for us, and that's how we started DNA Archery, and that's the company ethos as we continue to grow and move forward.
Yeah, keyword there is start. I mean, it's just like that's just ultimately what you have to do. You have to get started, and it may involve starting small. I mean, you're talking about bow hunting, and that your first bow was like one that you bought for like $400, and it's the same thing. Yeah. I'm still on my first bow. I have a Bear Whitetail Legend that I bought for $600. It was kind of funny when we when everyone got that $600 stimulus checks. I just took that to go buy my first bow. So first bow was on the government. Well, technically it was my money, but that's an entirely different side conversation.
That's a different podcast.
Yeah. I mean, of course, yeah, sure. There are bows out there that price range in the thousands of dollars, and, and also just like probably just certain piece of equipment that costs that much just as well too. But the thing is like, the thing is just to get started. I mean, even with podcasting, it's just like before I got my microphone set up here and was doing Zoom calls, I just put a little player speaker app on my microphone app on my phone and recorded on my phone just because I just wanted to start getting things out there. So that keyword there, just start. That's all it takes.
Yep. You hit it, man. Just get out and get going. Same thing with, me wanting to do an elk hunt. I can read as much as I possibly can and do all this research, but you're never going to really figure it out until you just get out and do it. Get out and make the mistakes, get out, have fun, and learn who you are in the process. and eventually you'll find success through consistency. That's what we've been talking about the whole podcast, man, is just be consistent, get out there and just try it and get started. Whether it's you need to lose 20 pounds or whatnot, get off the couch and just go take a walk outside. And that's where you start, but that's, it's hard for a lot of people. Getting that momentum, that initial bit of momentum built is the hardest part. But once you do it, I promise you, everything else starts to kind of fall in line from there. It still takes effort, but the hardest part is just getting up the initial ascent and getting that momentum rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome, brother. All right. And so now as we kind of get to the wrap up of our conversation here, I also ask all of my guests on the podcast to issue a challenge to our listeners because, you and I, we've been talking about some, very good and important lessons and information for the past hour. But of course, as we've discussed, information and ideas can really only take us so far. We have to follow it up with action if we really want to accomplish amazing things in our life. So with that, I want to ask you, what challenge would you issue to our listeners today for them to go out there and start living a more adventurous life?
Man, I guess I kind of preceded it a minute ago, but man, get out and get started. Right. So if I was anybody listening, I would sit down and take a mental inventory list of myself. What is it that you do where you find a good sense of fulfillment? What is it where you feel the most creative? Find that, write it down, and then back into the numbers from there. What does that look like to you? Like I said earlier, whether you're selling stocks or shooting a bow, if you feel very creative in doing something specific and it makes you feel a very good sense of self-worth, back into figuring out how you can make that a hobby, back into figuring out how you can do something on a daily basis where you're slowly making progress towards that ultimate goal. So that would be my challenge, and is take mental inventory of yourself and what makes you happy, and then get out and go start taking steps to actively work towards that.
Okay. And, that's a first to come up on the podcast, I think, man. And I certainly agree with you, writing things down, and because it's just like, if it's rattling around your head, it could be difficult to try to sort those things. But once you write them down, you make them all the more real at that point. And then, as we talked about with like lists and things like 75 hard, scratching them off and knowing that you do them and actually and things like that. So yeah.
Agreed, man. I keep a notebook on me every single day, and I have for the past 5 or 6 years. And that's been one of the things as an adult that I've started to do that's been extremely pivotal in just being able to feel more accomplished throughout my day. So making sure that you get that out of your head, like you said, because when you think about something as daunting as, something that really fulfills you as a human being, there's a great book by Stephen Pressfield called The War of Art. And a lot of it talks about the procrastination that we feel towards something that we're inclined to really wanting to do, and being creative, I think, is something that's at its foundation, the fuel for people's souls and what really drives them. And if you're not able to find something in your life that you can feel creative in, it manifests itself into a lot of different things, whether it's depression, making bad decisions, anxiety, things like this. If you're able to just get it out of your head, get it on paper so you can see something tangible and conceptualize it, then you can start to just make a plan of working towards that. And that's something that's going to be fulfilling in itself, because you're going to be checking off those boxes every single day and you're going to be feeling really good about yourself. So yeah, man, my challenge again, like I said, just be more creative and start working towards that goal.
All right. Outstanding, man. All right. So what I have for you next is my final 3. These are 3 fun questions. At least I think they're fun. I like to think that they're fun. And I ask these to all my guests at the end of the show. So of course you're going to get asked these as well. And the first of those 3 questions is, what is your favorite place that you've been to so far?
Ever? Man, it's kind of a toss up. So for me, I went on a trip to Thailand a couple of years ago, and that was an amazing experience. The people there are amazing. The landscape is just unreal. It's just beautiful. The culture there, I just absolutely love. I had an amazing time there, and I couldn't recommend going and taking a trip to that part of the world to anybody enough. And then also, Northern California for me is home, and it's home to some of the most beautiful country that we've got access to. So, certain parts of Northern California, I really do love. Big Pine Lakes is a beautiful hike. It's 5 miles up into the backcountry there. And the views that you have there are unparalleled, man. So for me, it's a toss up between probably Big Pines Lake and Thailand.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. And next question: what is one thing on your bucket list that you have yet to do?
Go on an elk hunt. That for me, either an elk hunt and a black bear hunt for me are very high on my list. And where I end up going and do the black bear hunt, I haven't decided yet. But those for me are very big on the list. And hopefully by this time next year, I'll cross both those off.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe a place for black bear hunting might be Michigan's Upper Peninsula, because we got them up there, and it's the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. You know, I hiked across that entire I hiked across the entire state, so of course I hiked across all of it, and that was always like the constant thing that some of the locals were wondering about. It's like, are you worried about the black bears? Are you carrying bear spray and this, that, and the other? So, and I also met a couple of bear hunters that live there too. So I'm thinking, who knows? Maybe Upper Peninsula, Michigan. You know.
Yeah, man. You never know. Wherever calls to me, I'll be there.
All right. Awesome, man. And speaking of animals, that is what the last question entails. And that is, what is your favorite animal? And have you seen this animal in the wild?
So I haven't seen an elk yet, so I can't say it's my favorite animal yet. I do love the allure of everything that goes along a hunt with that. But an axis is one of my favorites. And I actually just recently saw one for the first time on my last hunt when I was out in Junction. And I was bunkered underneath 2 mesquite trees, and I spotted it about 200 yards away. I saw its antlers kind of peeking around a couple of cedar trees. And as soon as it turned the corner, man, it lit me up. I was so excited, and it ended up it continued to start walking towards me. There's a little water trough that was maybe about 70 yards away from me on my right. And he slowly made his way towards me, got within 40 yards, and I was just able to kind of see him do his thing. And it's an absolutely beautiful animal, man. So an axis is one of my favorites, and I was able to see it finally. So that was a great experience.
Now the axis deer, I'm just trying to picture in my head. Is it the one that has like the spots? Like it's like kind of like a spotted deer? Is that?
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like a lighter tan. When they're older and they're a bigger, more mature buck, they kind of have a black stripe over the top of their spine, white spots, and they have a really unique set of antlers. Instead of kind of curving in, they go narrow up and then they pop out real wide. So it's a really beautiful antler, and it's a beautiful animal. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you had another first to come up on the podcast that axis deer. Like, I don't think anyone said deer in general. At least I don't think so. So there we go. Another first for the show, man. So awesome.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, man. Well, Nick, that's it, man. That's all the questions that I have for you today. But before we, call it a day here, where can our listeners go to connect with you? Okay. You're out there on social media, DNA Archery, it has a website, and you're out there in other, parts of the internet space as well. So fill us in on where our listeners can reach out and connect with you.
Yeah, man. So Instagram, as always, my personal account is Thwack. So THWAACK. You can touch base with me there. If you ever have any questions, like I said earlier, my door's always open. I love helping people out in any way that I can. So feel free to reach out to me there. Same thing on YouTube. And then the company Instagram is at DNA Archery Co. And then the website is the same, dnaarcheryco.com. So y'all can reach us anywhere there.
All right. And I'll be sure to get all of those linked up in the show notes for this episode, so the listeners can go and find them there. All right. Well, Nick, man, I want to thank you very much for taking the time for joining me today. And also kind of on short notice, we just got this set up a couple of days ago. Yeah. So I appreciate you being willing to hop on in such a short time. But it's been really great to, kind of connect with you on social media and just following you, seeing what you're all about. I just appreciate as well just how you're showing up in the world too. Not only just with sharing your archery content, but just your life and just general wellness and well-being content, I guess, as well too. So yeah, man, it's been awesome. Thanks a lot for joining me on the show today.
Likewise, Josh. I appreciate you having me on, man. It's been great to get to talk to you and get to know you a little bit more, man. I appreciate you.
All right. Right on, brother.